Daniel here. Going to go over today some basic pool equipment and talk about how we put the pool in service mode, how to turn a variable speed pump on and off, how to turn off the booster pump, and how we're going to operate the IntelliTouch panel. So whether it's a pool, a spa, a fountain, it's going to draw the water through to the pump, and that is always called the suction side. So with the pump here, it's pulling the debris into the basket. So this front port, this is all suctions. This is drawing water from the pool or the spa into the pump. The pump itself is made up of a canister, typically a basket, which catches debris like so. And this is going to have an O-ring, which seals to the lid. This is really important that the O-ring and the lid are intact and not leaking, because that vacuum will not work properly and the pump will not operate if there is any vacuum leak, which would cause air to come into here and it won't run. This is our pump pod. This is the impeller. So this part here in the middle is a little like a fan blade, and it turns, and it's a water wheel that then pushes the water out of the pump and then discharges to the return side. So suction in, return out. We're always going to have a primary filter pump. That is going to be a pool pump that is hooked to a pool filter. That pool filter may look a little bit different. This is a cartridge filter. It is filtering the water of microbes and small particles to remove them from the water so that the water going back to the pool is clean. These filters do have to get cleaned occasionally, and when the filter is dirty, the pressure will increase. So that causes resistance. So our normal operating pressure on a pool is going to be between 10 to 20 psi. When we see that pressure above 20 psi, that means that the filter or the sand or the diatomaceous earth is impacted and full, and it needs to be cleaned. As you can see, we have a filter pump, we have a filter, and then we have a secondary pump. Sometimes a secondary pump will be to operate jets, a waterfall, or a cleaner. This type of pump is a booster pump, and it runs the cleaner. It's a pressure-sized cleaner. So when the water returns from the filter and before it goes back to the pool, the water is diverted from the main return into a booster pump. And the reason why it's diverted into a booster pump is for the cleaner to work, the pressure needs to be around 25 to 30 psi going to the cleaner. But like I said, when this system's running properly and it's clean, it may only be running at 10 to 15 psi. So if it's 10 to 15 psi and it goes into the cleaner wouldn't actually clean the pool. So we run it through a booster pump, which increases that pressure. It then puts out a boosted pressure just to the cleaner, and the pool returns continue to operate at 10 to 15, maybe even 20 psi. But it's low pressure on that side and a higher pressure on the return side. And then let's take a look at what cleaner we have. All right, this is a pool spa combo we're looking at. And the cleaner that I was talking about coming off that booster pump comes out typically to the middle of the body of water. The cleaner wants to clean the entire body of water, and so they typically will set it up so that the discharge and outlet for that cleaner where it connects to the wall is going to be in the middle of the pool. That'll be a threaded connection going to a hose, which goes to our cleaner. This cleaner in the bottom of the pool, it's a pressurized cleaner. It is pressurized water going in, and when it's running, it's pushing water through the bottom and picking up the debris and pushing it into the basket, and the little tail on the end scrubs the bottom of the pool and removes any algae, dirt, and debris from the bottom, and so that the water gets turned and then goes into the filter system. The water pressure going in turns the wheels. It also sprays water straight up, and that sprays water into our basket. So it's blowing the leaves and the debris up into the basket. The tail also has water coming out, and that allows that tail to whip around and has an opening in the bottom where the debris gets drawn up into. This device backs the unit up. So every once in a while, there's a wheel in there, it turns, and then it'll engage and basically blow water out this port, which will back the unit up. So if it gets stuck in a corner, it won't just stay there permanently. It'll occasionally back itself up and then move forward again. There's a number of different models and types of cleaners. Sometimes that cleaner may be hooked up and it's actually on the suction side. Sometimes the cleaner is hooked up, it's on the pressurized side. Back of the equipment pad, pump is full, so we'll take a look here. When we talk about a pump being primed, that means that it should be full of water. There shouldn't be any air in here. And if we have a whole bunch of air, it means that there is air coming in to the system somewhere in the O-rings, the pipe, or a cracked fitting, maybe a bad O-ring. So we should see that nice and full of water. Okay, we shouldn't see any water dripping out of the equipment. Up here at the pool filter, there is a bleed. So we do want to bleed the air out. Once the air is bled out, the filter is then full of water. If we don't bleed the filter, then the filter only works at 80%, 50% capacity because there's air trapped in the top. So really important that we bleed the air out so that the filter can operate properly. Let's take a look at the pressure gauge here. So the top of the filter, there's going to be a pressure gauge, and we can see that when it's operating right now, these filters just got cleaned. It's just about 10 PSI. So that tells us we've got good working pressure. We've got water coming out, so the air's bled out, and we're good to go. All right, let's go ahead and take a look at our IntelliTouch panel. This is Pentair. This is a pretty standard panel. Number one thing that we see on here, it says service. That's our mode. So there's 3 settings. There's auto. Auto is the regular schedule, and that's how you're going to find the pool, and that's how you're going to leave the pool if you're putting it back into regular service. The other mode is time out. That's basically putting it into a temporary shutdown. So that's going to be for a couple of hours, and it'll go back into auto. So if you just want to shut it down while you're working on it and you want it to turn back on when you're done, you can put it in timeout. If you're working the manual controls, then you need the pool and the system set on service. That's going to prevent that pump from running. It's going to allow you to operate everything manually from the control. Right here is the mode button. That's going to change it to service mode. The next button over is the valve mode. The valve mode is going to change us to our different types of valves. So if we have a pool spa, we're going to click that button and it's going to go to spa mode. That's going to turn our valve so it draws water suction from the spa and returns water to the spa. Fill mode fills the spa. That takes water from the pool and fills the spa. The next mode is drain. So if you get to a pool and you're working on the spa, you push the valve button until it goes to drain, and that will then drain the water from the spa and transfer it into the pool. And then when you're done working in the spa, you can simply go back through, put it to fill, and move the water back over to the spa. Okay, next thing we're gonna look at is the different types of options we have. Typically the first button you're gonna see is the filter pump, and you're gonna hit that button, it will light up. That then is gonna give power to our pump. So we've turned on the power to the pump, but now we have to go to the control panel and manually turn on what speed we want it to operate on. So we have different speed settings. These are typically preset. We can also turn the speed up and down with arrows, and this is the start and stop. So if I choose speed 2, that's gonna run this pump at 2200 RPMs. I then press start, and it will take a second. It will not start immediately. And that is because it does a vacuum check before it starts the pump. And that's for the safety feature. So now it's up and running, and I can then change speeds. 23 on speed 3 on this one, and then speed 4, 3250. It's kind of running full tilt. We can hear the pumps running really strong. And then I can turn it down to speed 1. And if we look here on the watts right here, you can see as the speed comes down, the wattage comes down. And that's the amount of electricity that this pump is actually drawing to operate. Doing that, we have to run the pump for a longer time, but it costs less to do it. So old pumps, you would turn them on and off. They would have one speed, they'd have one amount of wattage, and there is no adjustment. New pumps are adjustable, and we can adjust those depending on what type of flow, what type of filter, how much water, and what type of system they're running. And are we trying to run it quickly? Are we trying to run it really slow and for a long time and use less energy? One more time to turn it off, you're going to press the start stop button, choose a speed. Now, if you try to start this pump and it will not prime the first time, it will then throw an alarm. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull the pump lid and we're going to turn this on. Okay, so the system threw an alarm code. It's gonna light up red. We're then gonna hold and press the reset button, and then it's gonna clear that alarm code there. So just hit the reset button. If that red alarm fires up, it'll say alarm across the screen. Now it's cleared. And now that it's cleared, I can go back and choose my speed, choose my start. So it's gonna do a start. I've now added water and primed the pump. If it takes too long to prime, it will throw another alarm. So just add more water, clear the alarm, and repeat the process till it's primed and running. If you do not see water drawing in fairly quickly from when you turn on the pump, it means you may have an issue with how the water is going into the skimmer. It means that lid might not be tight. It means you might have a loose connection. You might still have a plug obstructing the water somewhere. So we can see that's building. It's building a suction, and it's drawing that water in. So coming back to the panel, that was our filter pump. Next is our cleaner pump. So if I turn on the cleaner pump, we can hear the booster pump that runs the cleaner turning on and off manually. All right, let's talk a little bit about our pool and how our pool operates. First of all, what is a normal pool operating level? And that is gonna be the middle of the tile. So you'll see we've got a row of tiles here. It's about midway, and there's a reason for that. The majority of the water that is drawn out of the pool goes into the skimmer. You can see the water's being drawn in. This gate right here, it's a flapper. This is called a weir gate. The reason for this is that this draws tension from the surface. So if I take this debris and we put it in front of the opening of the skimmer, and we increase the surface tension with the weir gate, you can see it actually getting drawn in. So the weir gate has to be in place for the skimmer to actually skim the surface of the pool. The next part of the skimmer is the skimmer basket. The basket collects debris and needs to fit in properly. The other part of the skimmer is what's called a float valve. The reason why it's called a float valve is there is a float in here. The reason why the float is in here is because if the water level gets too low in the skimmer, it does not have water, the float valve drops down and seals, and the water then draws from the front port of the skimmer through the back port of the skimmer, and using this as a diverter to prevent it. So if we look inside the opening here, we can see there's two pipes in the bottom. The front port closest to the pool wall goes to the main drain of the equalizer. Back port goes to the pool filter suction port. So if we look in the bottom of the pool, we'll see that there's a main drain. That is a safe SDX retrofit cover. That pool drain cover then allows water to be drawn up into the skimmer, into the pump. If I close the bottom of the float valve and I seal this down, it then is going to slow the water flow. It won't stop it, but you can see it slows the water flow being drawn in from the weir gate, and it's now pulling water from the main drain. And when I go to pull this up, this will have suction. This is really tight now because it's forcing it to draw the water from the main drain. So it's a diverter. And the only way the main drain has full pressure on it is if that float valve is engaged and is activated like that. Otherwise, it will only do that when the water level gets low as a safety. And we'll open this back up. Normal operation, this should be fully open, and we want full flow going through the float valve. And you'll see the flow now is at full flow coming through here. And so the majority of the water is coming through the skimmers, through the basket, and skimming the pool. So right here we have an outlet. There's water flow coming out. We can see that debris moving. We can see the water going over the edge there. This is where this water is flowing from that pump and from the filter back into the pool and into the system. This is returning water to the system. That's why we call it a return. There's one here. There's also a number of other returns along the pool wall. There may also be returns that may be in the very bottom middle of the pool. All right, that's it for today. Just to recap, we went over how a pump works, how to use that equipment panel, how the different equipment operates, what the suction and return side are, how a skimmer works, main drain, And that's basically how our system operates and the basic function of a pool.